We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by PrizePicks. Week 5 tournament plays of the week, position by position. These are guys that might go overlooked in DraftKings GPPs, but can help us get to the top of the leaderboard. We're going to move right into the quarterback position. Interesting quarterback slate, to say the least, because we have a couple options on the cheaper side as well. But last week, Anthony Richardson got there for us at chalk, but doesn't seem to be like many people going back to him this week. So at 7K, I really like this starting point, but let's talk through that.
Yeah, $7,000 projected ownership right around 10%. And I'm not entirely sure I really need to do any convincing here, other than maybe people saying, oh, he projects to be the third highest ownership. But I do think the drop in ownership from the first and second to him is pretty significant. I think you're going to see Hurts, Mahomes come in around that 15, 16%. And then you've got a Rich sitting there at 10. And then you've got a handful of quarterbacks kind of clustered right in between that 6 to 8%. So like, I'm not overly worried about it. The Titans rank 25th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. We all know the ceiling that AR has. And so to me, he's just a pretty easy click. And then the one thing, and I don't know if we want to save this for DST, but I think it applies here. Are the Titans gonna be a chalk defense this week? So like, if they're gonna be 15, 20%, whatever it is, how did like I don't know. I mean, I guess he could still come in around 10, but that's one of those things where I think you turn over the cards and maybe he's 8, so which is great too. The 2% discount is great.
Mm-hmm. This is like one of the ones too. We talked about it usually. I mean, this is years and years ago at this point, but baseball. So if like there's a chalk pitcher, no one's going to have like that stack on the other side of it. If there's a stack, like a top stack that everyone's playing, no one's going to have the pitcher. Same kind of like at least mental thing with defense. Yeah, if Tennessee, like they're extremely cheap, obviously there's some pace to this game. If they end up being like 20, 25% owned, like by default, you're going to get a ton of leverage here by playing Anthony Richardson at quarterback. So yeah, man, I love this one. This one makes a ton of sense. Go ahead.
I was going to say one quick note on him, and I typically like to do this just to see where the sharp people are at. I think he projects way higher in ownership in small field stuff. So like Sadie's queues that are 60 man, 100 man, maybe even some of those like 250 man type contests. Like I think he actually gets closer to that 15, 16% right there with Mahomes and Hurts for what it's worth. So, but yeah, large field stuff. I think he's right around 10 and it's great.
I'm in on that. I'm not sure if I love anything on the prize pick side of things for him, but spoiler alert, we do have a prize pick coming here later, so I will hold when it comes to that. Let's talk about the running back position here, and David Montgomery, 6,600.
Yeah, this to me, I was so surprised when I saw projected ownership across the industry on him coming in right around that very, very low double digit at 10, 11%. The Panthers rank 30th in adjusted fantasy points allowed, and Monty is averaging 20 fantasy points per game right now. He is 100% of his team's running back touches inside the 5 and projects to, like I said, to be 10% owned. Massive, massive home favorite with a 27 implied team total at 10%. Like, can I cuss on your show? Like,
yeah, go ahead, man.
Sign me the fuck up, dude. Like, okay, last week when I was doing all of this, I was like, I'm having a difficult time identifying the right plays for some of these tournaments. This is one of those weeks, and I'll regret it come 12:01 on Sunday. I might play double my volume because I feel like I'm putting together the right things right off the rip. And Monty to me seems like such an obvious play, which means he's going to get 11 DK points, but
Well, regardless, if you want to make it double the pain, this is one of the ones I like on PrizePicks too. So more than 69.5 rushing yards. I have the projection closer to like 78, 79 rushing yards right now. So that's a nice little one to start with on PrizePicks. And if you want to take advantage of your free $100 bet, code Holka, link in the description. Let's jump over to your prize pick while we're here as well, Hodge. So you have Juju Smith-Schuster under 28.5 receiving yards. Talk me through that one.
Yeah, look, the targets have been kind of there. He's got like 5, 4, and 5 targets over the last 3 games. The last time he hit 28 yards was in week one, I think, and he hasn't eclipsed like 15. That game looks to be extra slow, so I'm not thinking that he gets those, a couple extra targets that could potentially get him over there.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, it's just a numbers thing with PrizePicks. For me, it really is, okay, where are the top discrepancies? Where's the top edge after simulating like what happens and how often a player does X or Y? And I just hit it. I'm not a big feel guy on the PrizePicks stuff. So like I like the feel in DFS a little bit more, but I'm just the numbers in PrizePicks.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's a few things that I would just add to that. Like the one thing that is nice in comparison to like a normal player prop situation is you can correlate games as well. So like if we really like Vikings Chiefs this week, for example, like I've had a lot of success just taking a lot of overs in one of those games and things that correlate a lot better together. So you got the Cousins, Hawkinson, Jefferson, and then on the other side you get like some Mahomes and Kelsey, like that type of thing. Typically works pretty well on PrizePicks. So I like that. And also this time of the week, there's less things to attack. You don't really have targets, pass attempts, that sort of stuff. But later in the week, like right when those drop, those are usually super inefficient as well. So I'm trying to get those on like Friday, Saturday before they start to move drastically, because they will move drastically depending on what projections you're using and that sort of thing. So those are the two things that I would keep an eye on. But let's talk through some more DraftKings stuff here. Outside of David Montgomery at the running back position, Kyren Williams at 6,700. I mean, a lot of people are going to be pretty excited about playing Stafford, I would imagine, this week. So this makes a nice little pivot as well.
Yeah, he's also got the Q tag next to him, which just seems to be like a minor hip thing. So just monitor that throughout the Thursday practice report and then Friday walkthrough, or Friday practice and Saturday walkthrough, stuff like that. But he's very similar to Monty in the sense of goal line and the total work that he's seeing. So he's got 75% of his inside the 5 touches and has 20 targets over the last week. So that's actually the one spot that he's drastically different from Montgomery, is that he's highly involved in the passing game. And I think the pace in this game could be fast, as both teams have picked it up over the last 2 weeks, which is obviously a very, very small sample size in the NFL. But I just think it's worth noting that both of these teams have been pretty friendly in pace over the last 2 weeks. So weeks 3 and weeks 4. And $6,700 is just like, it's, he's not 74. It's like it's a really nice palatable price point, I think, at 10% for a running back who just has the lock on the workload.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's two really good options, because I think at the running back position, we're going to see a ton of ownership kind of condense into that Achon range. Pacheco for a little bit cheaper than that. So I think that those are two guys that this is a potential pivot in that same exact pricing range, which I like a lot.
Yeah. Can we spend 2 minutes on Achane for me?
Mm-hmm.
This is still a timeshare, but what am I missing? Because I feel like I'm missing the I know ball, the
we're the
feel
same.
play.
No. We're exactly the same. What you're missing is the efficiency, and we don't even care about efficiency typically when we're looking at the data. We're just looking at volume. This is like that one where we're just like going to really struggle to hit that button, just because it's never going to look great from a projection standpoint. But if this efficiency keeps up, he's just going to keep shoving it down our throat. You know what I mean? So he's breaking these big plays.
I'm okay with that when he's 4%.
Yeah,
but
and he's 6,100. He's not free.
Yeah, he's above 6K. He's projecting to be the second highest owned running back on the slate. So the efficiency stuff, like, I lost a used Honda Civic on Tyreek Hill for that first year, but like,
same.
I just did the chalk stuff to me. That's just where I'm a little lost. So sign me up to lose again this week, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup too, so people are looking at that probably. Right. There's a couple of those type of things, but do those things really correlate to fantasy points? Yeah, I mean, this is like the early in the week type of thing with Achane, where he's projecting at like plus, or like, I don't know, basically right under 30%, which seems crazy to me at a 6,100 price tag for a guy that's in a timeshare. So
right.
I'm with you. That seems like a pretty decent spot to pivot. And again, the efficiency stuff is one that I'm usually going to be late on at wide receiver for sure, but that extends to running back as well. So
cool.
Okay. Wide receivers this week. I think that wide receiver also is one where we might see things condense a little bit, but more towards the top. I think that we're going to get the Jamar Chase narratives. We're going to get Justin Jefferson in a great game against Kansas City at the top. And then basically people are just going to go down to like that 5K range. Like Marquise Brown is going to be absolutely piled on at 5K, I think, as well. So like kind of in between that, in a spot that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about, is Michael Pittman, 6,300. the same reason we keep playing wide receivers against Tennessee, I'd imagine. But talk us through this one.
Yeah. Look, he checks a lot of boxes. Okay. And so if we kind of just move the Tennessee pass funnel out of the way, because we all know about it, he has a 27% market share of targets on just shy of 30 targets over the last 4 weeks. The Colts are playing pretty damn fast too, ranking first in situation neutral pace. So I was just combing through wide receivers. He projects at a very, very decent ownership, sub 10%. I think he's a great stacking option for a rich. A lot of people around that price point, I think, will probably be playing like Garrett Wilson, who's a little bit cheaper. So to me, it was just like one of those tournament, super large field, trying to get first place out of 100,000 entries. Like, he just seems like a great play. I actually think I'm going to play him in a rich and small field stuff too.
I think you're totally right on like this price point. Most people are probably going to go to Garrett Wilson around the same spot, maybe even talk themselves into DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of this same game. So yeah, there's basically no ownership between like Puka at 7,700 until you get to like that Wilson Hopkins range. So yeah, super interested in that. If we did want to go a little bit cheaper, it sounds like you got a gold star sub 5K or sub 4K wide receiver for us this week. Who was it?
Yeah. This is when I saw that Wan'Dale Robinson projected to be pretty heavily owned at 3K, I immediately just wanted to try and go find a wide receiver in a similar price point who has a probably ownership is cut in half, I think, when we turn over the cards from Wan'Dale. So he projects to be about 10%, and it's Rashee Rice. This game is just, I mean, an absolute gold mine. We've got a 53-point over under. His route run percentage and market share of targets has steadily increased since week 1. And over the last 2 weeks, he's second on the team in market share of targets, just behind Kelsey. So his route run percentage is going up. Look, the usage is just ticking in the right direction. So at $3,600 and a total that, I mean, it's the highest total on the slate by far, and projects to be great. I think this is a really great way to get some ownership to that. Get some exposure to that, but at a slightly suppressed ownership.
I like it. Let's rip through tight end here. A couple cheaper options I think might end up being a little bit chalkier at tight end, which is pretty normal. But this is a name I haven't heard yet. Tyler Conklin. Talk us through that one.
Oh gosh, nobody's talking about Tyler Conklin. I guess we're either winning the millie or losing it all. So look, 3,200. He's racked up 17 targets over the last 3 games, and now gets a Denver defense that ranks dead last in adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight ends. I think a lot of ownership in this game will condense around Garrett Wilson, and rightfully so. But Conklin is a great way to get exposure to this game at a cheap price and a very low ownership. The only thing that I'm somewhat concerned about, and I kind of put in my notes, like he's quietly racked up those targets. He did have the primetime game and an island game, and I think he had like 9 or 10 DK points. So he might be in the back of some people's minds as somebody who's like, I mean, 10 DK points at the tight end position. That's usually good for like third best on the slate. So.
Yeah. I'm with you. I like this one. Before we build a lineup, though, friends, quick heads up. All my final DFS picks and season-long content are 100% free this year, but I'm still live updating them throughout the week. In order to get them, you're going to have to head over to my newsletter. It's called the Touchdown Press. It's the only place that I'm dropping those links each and every week. You can get access to my rankings there as well. So you don't want to tap that first link in the description. Also, spent the entire offseason building out a free course as well, which I'm calling the DFS Masterclass. Make sure you guys check that out also. Hodge, ready to build a team?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Where do we want to start with this one? I imagine it's not with the Tennessee defense because you hate playing chalk defenses, but for now, I'm going to put them in as our placeholder, knowing that we're probably going to change it.
All right, cool. Let's start with a Rich to a Pittman.
All right, we got Rich, Pittman. I like it.
And then from there, I do think we hammer out the Rice low owned. And we can kind of leave it up to the audience on if they feel necessary to do mini correlation with Rashee Rice. It's pretty straightforward to get any of those receivers back, right? So you can do that. Running back, just pile on the David Montgomery, dude. Like pile it on this week.
Love
So
it.
from there, I don't have defense plugged in, but we've got
Yeah.
5,300.
Yep, roughly. So like 6K the rest of the way if you have like a cheaper defense in mind. So definitely some room here if we wanted to get a little bit more firepower with the wide receiver side of things too.
Yeah, let's plug in Conklin just because he's a
Okay.
cheap option in Denver
That
and
helps
somebody
even
that
more.
we talked about. And then the defense in my notes, I said, YOLO, crank up the variance.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, obviously in this line, I'm not playing the Titans, and I probably will not be heavily exposed to the Titans at all this week. So for me, I don't mind taking somebody maybe a little bit more expensive who projects well at decent ownership, and somebody like that could be potentially like Miami against Daniel Jones. I mean, we could even look to do the Denver defense at $3,200 against Zach Wilson. So here's the thing. Okay. Zach is 3 points away from beating the Chargers, but like that is the Chiefs. That is one game. We have a very, very large sample size of Zach Wilson not being good in any way, shape, or form. So I know this defense is looking to be historically bad, but at $3,200, I just feel like typically we'd be targeting Zach Wilson, right? Like a quarterback who's prone to making mistakes. Like I don't know. So that's fine. I don't know, man.
Let's get Broncos in there. If you want to be pivoting like in that range, like I think the Saints might grab a little bit of steam, I guess, throughout the entire week. So you get a nice little pivot there. Broncos are just really hard to click with how poor they've been, but yeah, I like the matchup. Like it a lot. 6,600 the rest of the way. Need a running back, wide receiver, and a flex. So we probably could get Kyron on this team, or we could probably get an elite wide receiver if we wanted to go that direction too.
Let's do an elite wide receiver. Do you have a semi-punty running back that you like in the 5K range?
I do like the Pacheco stuff quite a bit. Just at 5,700 is like the cheapest I've kind of gone at running back so far. I think if you wanted to get, I guess, into the narratives of getting in some Breece Hall, I think he's fine at 5,400. Are you thinking cheaper than that?
No. That's kind of where I was thinking. Anywhere between that like 55 to 6K type range, I think looks pretty juicy. I think Breece is what, 54?
Yep, Breece is 54.
Are we not? I guess we really need the Saquon reports, but like, I mean, Breida could end up being fine against Miami, who's been giving up some somewhat decent like explosive type plays. Not that Breida's an explosive back.
Yeah, Miles Sanders, if the health holds for us at 52 is not bad.
Yeah. What about I tweeted him out probably on the never again list, but what about Madison against Kansas City this week?
I don't mind that. That's going to be a unique way to get access to this game. Rice, Madison together.
Yeah.
I could do that.
All right. I'm down. I'm down to do that. Good implied team total at home, taking Madison. Maybe he falls in twice and we run super hot on 60 yards and 2 TDs.
That would be nice. That would be nice. All right. So I got wide receiver and flex left, 7150. So we have tons of firepower here. We can get in a stud, I think.
Yeah, if we can get in a stud, I think one of the best ceiling plays on the slate is probably Tyreek, especially compared to his ownership relative to JJ and Jamar. So I think Tyreek, like didn't we just talk about losing a ton of money on him in 2020 and 2019?
Just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we play him, and that gives us 53 in the flex. We could flex a wide receiver like Tyler Boyd and then go up at defense, right? I think, but Boyd looks to be a little chalky. So there's a lot of options. We could go back to Tank Dell. I'm just a little concerned about the pace that Atlanta is just allowing opposing teams. So like I don't know.
Let me sell you on Tank Dell then, because this is this is like more of a hand in the dirt take that Jake just gave me, and we actually talked about it a little bit more off camera that isn't going to make it into the video. So one of the things that's super interesting about just in general, we've talked about it before, like these kind of deep threat wide receivers, you really want to play them in situations where they're not going to be pressured at all, or their quarterback is not going to be pressured. This is definitely one of those situations. So CJ Stroud is going to have a ton of time against Atlanta, which is going to free up Tank Dell down the seams a little bit more. And at 4,800, like basically people were falling over themselves to play him last week, and he didn't quite get there. So it just doesn't really make sense to me to completely jump off that train in a situation where he could break a really big one at 4,800 in this spot. So I'm going to leave him in there. And then if we leave Broncos D in, we got 500 on the table. We're going to just get unique in tournaments unless you have anything else you want to change here.
No, not at all. I would just advise people maybe just look at a different defense, go up to somebody else. You could actually maybe even play the Chiefs in a shootout, right? Against, so like something like that makes sense. But no, I think that's great.
You get your Dolphins D if you wanted to. You mentioned that one before against
Danny. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So a lot of this makes sense to me. Good low product ownership. You actually have plenty of room to pivot to like something super chalky in this lineup too.